Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Let me just admit some more people here. Okay, as usual, please in the chat box, can you hear me well enough? Just a thumbs up or a yes or a something so I can see that you guys can hear me. I just want to do some settings here. Thank you. Thank you, Vilma. Thanks, Adna. Let me just admit some more people while they're coming in. Lisa, dankie. Okay. Thank you. Oppo, thank you, Paula. Marie, thanks. Excellent. Okay, good. Again, as usual, just make sure your mic is on mute, please. And as always, if you would like to ask questions, you can type it in the chat box. I'll look at the chat box for any questions, and then we can have some discussion during tonight's session. I just see there's a couple of people coming in still. And just help them. Okay, good. Nice. All right, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Yes, we should have had this session last week already because I usually do it the last Sunday of each month. But time was flying so much again that I skipped a week or two. So at least we can do this tonight. And tonight on the group, most people voted for understanding and managing relationships. That is a big one. All right, and we're going to go through a few things. If you can understand and manage relationships 110%, you'll probably not exist on this planet anymore. You'll probably be enlightened and you'll probably explode because relationships are the most difficult thing that can probably happen on this planet. But without them, we cannot grow. Without them, we cannot have feedback to who we are. Without them, we don't understand what we are doing here. It would be very nice if you were on an island somewhere all by yourself, but the growth potential all by yourself is not that effective. Right? So relationships usually have a reason. And most people fall into the trap of making a relationship so complicated. And whether that is work relationship, whether that is personal relationships, friendships, doesn't matter. So we're going to go through a few things that's important to understand about relationships. And the word managing in the managing and understanding relationship is actually a bit of a trap. Because do you manage a relationship or do you nurture a relationship? Okay. The original definition of a relationship is actually interesting because it is just a state of being connected. So when the word relationship was in the early meaning in the early days, it meant a state of being connected. Now, if you're in a state of being connected, you're in a relationship with everything around you. And that's what people misunderstand. If you ask somebody if they are in a relationship, immediately, most of the time, where do most people go to? An intimate relationship, right? Like a partner. That's what people refer to as a relationship. But there are many types of relationships. You have so many things with relational value happening around you on this planet that we don't want to box the mind into one specific thing and say, this is a relationship. That's why it's so difficult to define. And then when we get to the intricacies of value systems and people joining themselves into a relationship and the value systems that are conflicting, then it becomes a nightmare. So if we can, there's about 17 of you on the call. If you can say 1 or 2 words in the chat box, what do you think is the most important aspect of a relationship? What would you say? What are the most important things for you in a relationship? Just in the chat box, please type 1 or 2 words what you think are the most important things for you in a relationship. If you have to decide, if you have to guess. Trust, okay. Paula, trust, good. Friendship, Elmarie. Respect, Erna. Comms, communication, Wilma. To be heard, Shari. Trust, Erna. Communication, okay. Trust, communication, to be heard. Respect, friendship, right. It's funny because commitment, okay. Om te kan luister, Tasha, ja, verseker. You see the different things that come up if you ask people what are important in relationships for them. Now, if you take these things that you just said, like communication, trust, to be heard, okay, to be able to listen, all right, to have friendship. If you take those things and you superimpose them on other relationships like work partners, friendships, okay, animals, do they stack up? It's a good indication to check if they stack up. And most of these things, like communication, is the most important thing, right? I've had people, it's funny because last month, so a lot of relationship issues coming up. Relationship ending, relationship starting, some relationships ending because other relationships are starting. Okay. So such a confusing mess to navigate relationships. But the obvious thing that stood out for me is the ability to communicate in a relationship. Because a lot of the time there are assumptions. If you make even half an assumption, even if you've been with a person for 50 years or one of your best friends, or if you start to make assumptions in a relationship, that's quite a bit of a killer in the relationship. Because no matter how long you've known someone, no matter how well you know somebody, there's always something that you don't know about that person. So you cannot make assumptions, right? You cannot read minds. The mind readers, in any case, they don't read minds, they plant thoughts in your head. So they're a bit different. But if you try and read minds and make assumptions about a person and the relationship with you, it is fascinating what you are up against. Right. I ask my clients, well, sometimes I give them homework in the form of take 1, 2, 3 people closest to you and go and sit with those people and ask them individually, what do they think about you as a person? How do they see you as a person? It's a very interesting exercise to do because the answers that come out there is not usually what a person would expect. There may or may not be some overlap as to how those people see you. Okay, but it's a very, very interesting exercise to do. And especially if you've got friends, good friends that you can actually be open and honest with and just ask them, how do you see me? How do you see me as a person? Right. The one client of mine was so disgusted because he asked his dad and he didn't get the answer he expected from his dad. It was a shock to his system how his dad saw him, but it's a valuable exercise to do nonetheless. To go and sit with somebody and say, okay, how do you see me? All right. If you are in a relationship that is crumbling, that is challenging, that you don't know which way to go, when would you know to let go of that relationship? Okay, that is an interesting question because people, if you're in a relationship, doesn't matter, friendship, business, work, okay, partner, marriage, right, dating, doesn't matter what that is. How do we know that it's time to let go of a relationship? It's a very difficult thing to answer because some people will try and work on a relationship, work on a relationship, work on a relationship for years and nothing changes. So when do they want to give up or when should they let go? Nobody can really answer that question for you. Okay? Nobody can answer when the time is for you to end a relationship. It's not up to them. It's up to you and the person you're in a relationship with. But if you sit back and you do an honest and sometimes raw assessment of the relationship that you are in, you'll get your answers quicker. And what I mean by that is, let's take, for instance, energetically. Let's start with that. If you are in a person's space and they drain your energy and you feel tired, and it's just like whenever you see this person, your body reacts in a negative way. And I don't know if you guys have had that experience, but most of you on this call should know what I'm talking about. There are just some people that you sit with and it feels like, man, it is not nice to be in this person's presence. Okay. If that continues and you ignore the symptoms of your body, what do you think is going to happen to your poor body? It's going to collapse. It's going to become sick. It's going to tell you so many different symptoms to make you aware that this is not good for you. Right. So energetically, there's a nice one. You can sit in someone's presence and you can start to observe what the body feels without even trying to explain it. Okay. Another question that I usually ask people is, what do you want out of a relationship? A personal relationship now, say between two partners. What is it that you want out of a relationship? No, I just want love. I'm like, yeah, that's not very specific. Okay. Love and compatibility are not the same thing. You can love somebody tremendously, but when you spend an hour or two with them and they're in your space, they start to irritate you, or you just don't want them there. Okay, so the compatibility and the love, two different things. Doesn't mean that it's wrong or right. It's just what's wrong or right for you. I see the celebrities now, they're on this, what do they call it? Divorcing the bedroom, or divorcing rooms or something like that, where each person has their own bedroom. And then when they want to get together to make love or do something intimate, they have the third bedroom. I'm like, that's an interesting one. It seems to work for some people. So people do sleep separately, and then they have the intimacy in a bedroom, then they just go their separate ways, but they still live in the same house. And I was like, wow, we cannot judge what is right or wrong for people, and we cannot judge what is right or wrong for relational interactions. Okay, that you can only answer for yourself. So firstly, check what the energetic structure is of the body. How does the body feel when you sit with a person? I don't know if you guys have had this experience. You probably have, otherwise you wouldn't be on this call. But if you've sat with someone where the heart is open, the mind is open, and you can just chat to this person, and it feels like eternity can go by, and you can just sit and talk and talk and talk, no expectations, no masks, just comfortable, free-flowing, safe communication. That's quite a nice way of feeling that the relationship that you're in with this person is a good option as a relationship. Okay. It is funny because time usually goes by so quickly in those circumstances. 3 hours would feel like half an hour. Most of the time, people describe it as feeling safe, feeling heard, and feeling seen. Right. Those are good foundations for a relationship. Feeling safe, feeling heard, and feeling seen. Okay. Most of the time, we don't do that in today's modern society. Where do relationships get the chance to actually blossom into that? Do you still feel safe, feel seen, you feel heard? Okay. And obviously, males and females experience it differently, completely, right? That's why communication is so important, because people talk past each other. It is fascinating to observe. If you're communicating here and somebody's communicating here, there's no solution to be had. That's why people get mediators, get intermediaries, get people to sit in between them and try and sort out that communication gap. Okay. And it is ironic, if you have that open communication and you can just be yourself, there's so many things that you can sort out concerning relational issues. Okay. But yeah, it is not easy. It is a practice that you have to do. All right. So, Kari, men need respect and women need love. Yes. But what is that love? How does that respect show up? How is it shown? How is it manifested? You see, we all have these little sayings that we go by. Okay, men need this, women need this. Sure. Have you tested all 8 billion people on the planet, and do they all need the same thing? So be very careful if you label something, okay, men need respect and women need love. What does that look like? What does that love look like for a female? I can tell you, though, that most females need safety. I actually heard, it was this one podcast. I can't remember who said it. But this guy said that the most dangerous man a woman will ever meet is her husband. I'm like, sounds a bit weird. But if a woman meets her husband, that is the person she's going to spend the rest of her life with. She doesn't know how he's going to change. She doesn't know how he's going to behave. That can be the most dangerous person in her life. And I'm like, no, that makes a bit of sense, because females feel unsafe. Tony Robbins actually had this experiment in a big crowd of people. I think there were 5,000 people in the crowd. And he said all the females who's felt unsafe in the last 30 days, put up your hand. The majority of the females put up their hands. Then he asked the males, okay, all you guys, in the last 2 months, who felt unsafe? And one or two guys put up their hands. Okay, so the world is different for people, and the way they experience it is different for people. Okay. Right, love is safe, but also to be heard. Yes, for sure. But that to be heard, what is that? How do we define that? How do you know that you've been heard? It is important to understand the feedback that your senses give you when you communicate with someone. Right? If you talk to someone and you share something very, very intimate and something very, very personal, how do you know that you've been heard? Eye contact, probably. Okay. Energetic resonance, probably. Safety, and of course, feedback. That person can tell you exactly what you've been said and how they understand how you feel. That is quite interesting because then you get nice feedback. But is it always accurate? Can another person understand how you feel 100%? Okay, it's not always possible. You can have slight empathy towards that person, but if you have to understand and be in another person's shoes, it is not that easy. It is not that easy, okay? So that's why we communicate. So what does being heard mean to you? What does being seen mean to you? And do we ever go into a relationship when there's a connection go, wow, oh, this is nice. I want to pursue this relationship. If it's an intimate relationship, do you have a little list of 3 things that are important to you, 3 value systems that might collapse or clash? If not, you're in big trouble. Okay. It is nice to understand that if you talk to somebody and there's a connection and there's a value system clash, man, you're going to have a rough time. But if there's 1, 2, or 3 value systems that link up in the relationship, then there's a nice foundation to build from, I think, because I just think that's the experience I've had with most of my clients. Right. So just to fall in love and jump into a relationship, man, I think that's effective. Then years later, people are still in the same house with a stranger and they've spent time together because people grow very, very, very often. Okay, it happens that people are so busy building a life that they forget each other in that process. They forget the other person because there's always a purpose and always a goal, always something more to achieve and always going, and then the path starts to diverge. Right. Because if you associate purpose with people, you're in for trouble. Okay. What's the purpose of you in my life? A lot of people ask that. It's not really the question. The question is, what is the relationship I have with you in my life? Why is this relationship for me important? Why are you my friend? Why are you my partner? Okay. And Ram Dass still said it the best. He says, my relationship with you has got nothing to do with you. And I'm like, whoa, it's a rough one. But everything, if relationship means a state of being connected, if you look at a plant, if you look at an animal, if you look at food, if you watch TV, there's something that happens within you, right? In your nervous system, in your mind. It has an effect on you. If you listen to music. So you have a relationship with all those things. That's a funny thought to have. But you've got a relational situation with everything around you. Your car keys. What does that make you feel if you can't find your car keys? It's got an effect on you. What happens if somebody maybe scratches your car? There's an effect on you. There's a relationship with everything around you. And now we go and say, oh, I need a relationship. Sure, really? Even if you're the loneliest person on the planet, if you walk out into nature, there's a relational activity going, a relational reciprocity. Because you look at the plants, you breathe the air, everything is connected. So if we remember the state of being connected for relationships, if you disconnect from a relationship and you don't give it attention, you give it space, but you don't give it engagement, you don't give it attention, you don't communicate, what's going to happen to that relationship? It's going to wither and die. Okay. So it is a thing that's alive. It's not a thing that's meant to be managed. It's a thing that's meant to be nurtured. Now, what happens if there's conflict that arises in a relationship, which inevitably happens, right? One of my teachers said on the one meeting we had, one discussion panel we had, he said, if only men could see their wives like they saw them for the first time and vice versa, there would be no problems. Because the first time you fell in love with someone, the first time you saw someone, the first time you had that connection was amazing. So why do we forget to see that person the same as that? Circumstances, people change, stress, deadlines, financial stress, difference of opinions, all these things start to corrupt and confabulate this relationship. So what do we do? Do we do a memory wipe and sit there and go, let's just see the person the same as we saw them before? No, if a relationship is very toxic and very stressful and strained, one of my other teacher's favorite example is, can you see that person as your guru? I'm like, shit, that's a rough one. If you're in a relationship with somebody that's abusive or somebody that doesn't support you or that whatever you feel, can you see that person as a guru? Yes, you can learn a lot from that person. You can learn how you don't want to be. You can learn what you don't want in life anymore. Okay. And a nice gauge would be if you're in a relationship intimate now with people, because that's mostly the problems in marriages and in intimate relationships. Will you take a step back and date that person from the start if you were to date that person again? So if you've been married for 20 years, 30 years, would you go back and date that person, yes or no? It's frightening how many people say no. Then you know there's a bit of a problem. Okay. Because while you were dating, I don't know the dating scene today, it seems like it's chaos out there. But there's certain things that happened, and that communication was there. And what are the words that we are looking for? It feels safe. Okay. It feels natural. Feels like you can share with this person anything and everything that you wish. There's nothing holding you back, and there is not a fear of judgment. You know how many people have been together for years and then there's still some things that their partners don't want to share because of fear of judgment. Oh, I can't tell my husband that. Oh, I can't tell my wife that. I'm like, what? Why? Shoo, it's a bit rough. Sure, you don't want to share everything unprovoked, but if you don't feel comfortable enough to share that with your life partner, what are you doing? What's happening with you? And why are you in that relationship? Okay, fear of judgment, fear of repercussions, fear of what? Right, so it's a bit rough if you go according to that scenario. So if the relationship you're in has got nothing to do with you, what do you need to learn from it? What is the reason for that relationship? What did you get out of it that you're not getting out of it now? Okay, so it sounds a bit harsh to ask these things, but they are crucial. And then when you ask and you get the answers, what does your energetic frame of mind feel like? Or what does your energetic body feel like? When you get the answers, do you feel more peace? Do you feel more stressed? Do you feel raffled? Okay. Do you feel pressured, drained? It's important to understand what's happening in your body because everything gives you feedback. And if a relationship is feedback and you nurture yourself and you nurture a relationship, try it. It will be interesting. One of the stories, the martial arts stories that we used to grow up with in one of my martial arts teachers, he used to have these little stories. And he had the story about this Chinese girl who had a stepmom and she hated her stepmother. They just didn't get along. They were fighting and arguing, and eventually it became so bad. This girl went to see a herbalist and told the herbalist that she wants to poison her stepmom. And the doctor looked at the herbalist and said, okay, you'll help her to do that, but there's one condition. For the next 3 weeks, she must not raise suspicion that she's busy with something that malicious. So while she feeds her stepmother this poison, it will start to work slowly over 3 weeks. She must just be the nicest person she can be. Do not argue with the stepmother. Listen to everything she has to say. Just do what she wants and just be there for her while you poison her so not to raise suspicion. And in 2.5 weeks, the stepmom changed and this girl changed and the relationship changed completely. And she went back to the herbalist and she was so sad. She's like, no, we have to do something. I don't want to poison my stepmom anymore. There's this understanding. We've been communicating. We've been accepting. We've changed our relationship. And he said, don't worry. I just gave her some normal herbs to help boost her vitality. And I'm like, that's a nice lesson. If somebody is mean to you, if you don't have a relationship with somebody, and if they are toxic and you haven't given the chance for a period of time, just to accept this person, to listen to this person, to try and understand this person, then maybe go and do that first before you make too harsh a decision about relationships. Okay. But if you continue, if you don't give yourself a timeline, for instance, some people go on for years. I don't think it's necessary to go on for years. Give yourself 6 months, 8 months, a year, whatever feels comfortable for you. And in that 6, 8 months to a year, go be yourself, be accepting, be understanding, fill the other person's shoes, maybe try and find out where they come from, work on the communication, do all those things for yourself, not for the other person, and then see if something changes. And if something doesn't change, then it's up to you to understand when a relationship should end or not.
Mhm.
Okay. So that is the interesting part with relationships. Now, what do we do with healthy boundaries in relationships? What are those? What's a healthy boundary? Okay. Everything in nature has a boundary, right? Animals claim space with each other. If you invade an animal's space, they'll show you, don't come in there. So what is a healthy boundary for you? That's something that you have to work out. Do you need time alone when you come home for like 20 minutes after work? Do you need to talk immediately and your partner doesn't want to talk? It's a difficult thing to manage, but you must understand what works for you and what works for your partner. Okay. If you need to sleep in a different room for a night and reset, and you can communicate that with openness, it's okay. That's what a partnership is. It's not taking it personally. Okay. If you take everything personally, you're in for a rough ride. Okay.
Mhm.
It's a tough situation to manage. Alrighty. So remember, relationships' original meaning is a state of being connected. You are connected to everything that you engage with. If you engage with everything fully in the present, the past and the future cannot really demand your time. Now, you sit in front of a person, you dig up the past, or you make plans for the future. Very rarely do people just sit for 50 minutes together and spend time on the present, just spend time with each other. And I think in the initial stage of relationships, when that happens, that's what's so amazing. Feeling safe, feeling understood, no pretense, just discussing, just having this connectivity. If those things are in line, then of course relationships can be so amazing. But if they're not, it can be one of the most devastating things on this planet. All right. Okay, cool. I see half an hour's already gone. Quick. Time flies. Any questions in the chat box? I'll give a minute or two for you to maybe ask a question, something you want to share. All right. While you're busy with questions or something you want to share, the relationship with yourself, we haven't covered. So what's your relationship with yourself? That's an interesting question to ask, because how do you treat yourself? If you were in a relationship with yourself, how would you treat yourself? Okay. The other thing to watch out for is a lot of people preach out there that you don't need anybody or everything is your responsibility. You need to work on yourself before you start a relationship. You need to do this before you, man, it's a bit rough. We need other people. People are social beings. When babies are born and you leave them alone, they don't develop as they should. Our nervous system wants connectivity, interaction with other people. So to say that you must work on yourself before you work on other people or before you get into a relationship, no, there are certain things that you, of course, need to work for on yourself, but it's not a prerequisite for you to go into a relationship. How many times have you seen people change and glow when they get into a relationship? I've seen it a lot. Okay, people change. It's good for them to have this relationship. It is nice for them to have this relationship. And then what they do with it, now they nurture it, is up to them afterwards. It is not a thing that you should now not have a relationship because you can't work on yourself. Okay, so please watch out for that one. It's not true. Cool. Okay, awesome. I see there are no questions in the question box. Let me just scroll down. No, nothing I missed, I think. No, I didn't miss anything. Excellent. So thank you for joining, guys, again. For this half an hour. I tried to keep it short, not too long to be on screen. And Erna, baie dankie vir 'n wonderlike. Ag, jy's welkom, Erna. Ek hoop dit help. I hope these things help. It is nice to be reminded of what these things are. It's nice to be reminded to navigate relationships and certain things that you can do. Okay. And yeah, the best thing you can do is to understand that the relationship with the other person's got nothing to do with the other person. It's got to do with you. Right? How you handle it, what you bring, what type of energy you bring to the table, how you respond. Do you listen? Do you understand? Or do you just judge? Right. So, yeah, it's a fascinating thing. Okay, dankie, waardeer die inligting. Samsung, Lisa, dankie. Welcome, Lisa. Nice, thank you. We always enjoy. Okay, thank you, Samsung. All right, awesome. Thank you, guys. I hope you got some insight into this. Namari says yes. Insiggewend. Okay, it was insightful. Good. And now, when there's insight, go apply the insight. Okay, go live out the insight that you have. Go test it out in the real world, because that's the only way you can make it yours. It's the only way you can actually bring it and make it something that is real. Okay. I hope you guys have an amazing Sunday evening. Take it easy. And if you have challenging relationships, just approach them with an open heart and honesty. That's all you can be. You can only be who you are and nothing else and nothing more. Right. So have a very good evening and thank you for joining again.